they will try and change the numbers and tell you that it's not really happening. They will just try and change the game and say, well, she wasn't really a border czar. They will try and hide the numbers as it relates to Putin and the amount of invasions that have taken place under different presidents' watch. They simply try and change them so that they can never be fact-checked while they fact-check factually correct statements. And that brings us to fact-checking the fact-checkers.
Tweet check. Fact Trump. Trump fact check tweet. Fact check. News.
So we listened to the whole interview, okay? I'm going to lay out for you what Donald Trump said and then show you the claims that are out there. So please, if you can hit like, you can share this, because this is based on the most prominent claims that you are seeing from the left right now that have been trending. And of course, CNN issued a whole 20-something fact check response, which is completely false. We give you all of the references. So here is first. What?
Just the fact that she's calling him a rich guy, can't run a live stream. Like she's obsessed with buses. He sent rockets to space.
I know. Like, in service to him, as my administration calls on Google and Spotify to censor Joe Rogan and by name Steven Crowder. You know that's a thing, right? At the Recode conference, you had senators calling for this to be banned. That's why we're supported by You Mug Club. It's surreal when you watch senators and committees talking about banning your channel over things like a blow-up doll. So
that has been retired.
The cowardice is unreal to me.
Yeah.
It's completely real. Let's be honest. Okay. Here is what Donald Trump said, or he spoke, and then, of course, the left was trying to paint it in a different light. But first, here, listen to this.
You know, the biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise 1/8 of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming.
Okay. Now, first off, anyone who acts as though they don't understand that he's joking is lying to you. He did the same with Elon Musk, right? Where he spent 20 minutes crapping on EVs. I believe it was in Atlanta. He said, they're awful, they're okay for a niche, but you know what an electric charger is? It's basically a gas pump with an outlet, but now I have to support electric vehicles because Elon's been good to me, right? I have to support electric. And he went on to dump on electric. He's clearly making the point that everyone knows if we were worried about the ocean levels rising to the degree that had been predicted, billionaires would not be buying oceanfront property. Right. Okay, so that was the point that he was making. Now here is the claim from the left. And this is everywhere. And it confused me because I listened to their examples and it still didn't make sense. Their claim is that, Donald Trump has been slurring his speech. See this everywhere. He was slurring his speech, his S's, he has a lisp. He's not sharp.
He's not he needs to drop out.
Right. Now here's the truth. He wasn't slurring. It was very clearly an audio compression problem. It happens often if you're on speakerphone or Wi-Fi. So just to give you an idea, in March of 2023, Zoom actually released a PSA on how to fix the, quote, lisp on their platform. In case you don't believe me, we'll give you a very clear example, putting it through the same kind of processor, what kind of result you would get with Kamala Harris. Here is Kamala Harris initially, the clean version.
Having to stress and stretch limited resources. That's about a source of stress for families that is not only economic, but is on a daily level, something that is a heavy weight to carry.
Now, let's listen to it through this Zoom pseudo processor.
Having to stress and stretch limited resources. That's about a source of stress for families that is not only economic, but is on a daily level, something that is a heavy weight to carry.
Donald Trump didn't slur his speech. Go watch the entire interview, listen to it, hear it for yourself. We can consider this one pretty easily fact-checked. Fact check!
Also, fact check that with any radio interview they do with somebody on the phone.
No.
It's S's
It'll last 100 years.
S's and plosives. If there's no pop filter here, we'll distort it. Same thing with, it's very, very well known. I tell you this as someone who's worked professionally in voice work for several decades. It's well known. So this is how paper thin their claims are, but it's everywhere. It's everywhere. They're trying to say that he's in cognitive decline because they really want to try and present Kamala Harris as energetic.
You telling me a guy is in cognitive decline that can sit there and just have this conversation for over 2 hours? And every time they tried to end the conversation, they kept going. Right. This guy is not in cognitive decline. He is pulling facts and figures from all over the place. You may not like how he does it. You may not like what he says. but you cannot make the argument that he's going downhill.
No. And there were no other examples aside from the S's.
Right.
That sounded like he was slurring his words or messing up his speech, or even not being able to maintain his train of thought, verbal fluidity. It was all pretty much exactly what you would expect, for better or worse, depending on your opinion. Let's go to the next one. Here's Donald Trump speaking on Kamala Harris, the border czar.
Kamala was the border czar. Now she's denying it. Everything that I do, she's saying she was strong on the border. We're going to be strong. Well, she doesn't have to say it. She could close it up right now. They could do things right now. It's horrible.
Okay, that seems pretty straightforward.
Very straightforward.
But the claim from the left is that Harris was actually never the border czar. You're seeing this everywhere right now as they fact check Donald Trump on this statement. I know this.
Brian Krasenstein or whatever his name is. Yeah. Little prick.
How you really feel, Jerry?
Those guys.
I know. It's journalism. Here's the truth, obviously. We'll give you a bunch of examples, but Biden himself named her the border czar in March 2021.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
Sorry, right clip.
But the vice
That's the next
vice president's agreed, among the multiple other things that have happened at the meeting, and I appreciate it, agreed to lead our diplomatic effort and work with those nations to accept the returnees.
You say lead?
And enhance migration enforcement at their borders. And I can think of nobody who's better qualified to do this than this is a woman who ran.
You mispronounced anybody.
Second largest Attorney General's office in America after the United States Attorney General.
Okay, so Biden announced it. The White House acknowledged it. There's another overlay. References available at louderwithcrowder.com. Click the link in the description. We're the only show that provide them every single day. And many media outlets actually referred to her as the border czar.
Axios.
If you're blaming us for calling her the border czar, kindly, I have to be careful because Josh has been banned. Kindly accept our disabusing you of that notion. Fact check, fake news. Fake news. I just can't help it.
It's a spice.
I can't help it. When someone says, hey, check out our border czar, you're like, oh, which one? That border czar? It's not a border czar. What's happening?
I said person in charge of the border, not czar.
No, you actually said border czar. Oh, yeah, I did say that.
Son of a gun.
But I didn't mean that. Let's go through the next one. And this is one, of course, that CNN really likes to... They really like to use this example. And the left, they've really switched. When people say the parties have switched, of course, it's not the Southern strategy and Strom Thurmond. The parties have switched a little bit on their hawkishness on war. And I'll bring you back to Barack Obama and Mitt Romney in the debates there because I think it's pertinent. But the left, of course, is furious about Donald Trump and his comments, which in context, I think are actually quite reasonable on Vladimir Putin.
I said to Vladimir Putin, I say, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it. And I told him things that what I do, and he said, no way. And I said, way. And you know, it's the last time we ever had the conversation. He would never have done. I got along well with him. I hope to get along well with him again. You know, getting along well with them is a good thing, not a bad thing.
Who wrote that? John Hughes?
And then he said that it was totally radical and I should cowabunga.
No way. And I said, way.
I told him, I said, do not have a cow, man. That's what I said. Then he asked me to eat. He said, eat my shorts. I said, I won't.
That's gross. I'm a germaphobe.
And then we went and got some za.
We went and got some za. Went down to the 7-Eleven. Big gulps.
He's in the juice.
Oh. Don't you forget about me. So, it was funny. It was funny, but it actually is a good thing. I agree with him. Getting along with foreign leaders doesn't mean that you support them, and we'll go through the record. Now, of course, the claim you're seeing, not just from the left, but neocons, this is the claim that they are making right now, and this is being disseminated across all of social media. Of course, the people who, Kamala supports, and she's in the pocket of big tech. They are saying that, well, actually, Putin And I don't know, comment below, do you think anyone is actually believing this? It's pretty hard for me to believe that anyone buys this, but this is what they are selling, that Putin sees Donald Trump as the easier target. Jeez.
What do you make of one, just that story, but also Trump's argue of how much influence he has on the Russian
That guy's
leader?
still alive.
He certainly didn't have that conversation with Putin when I was in the White House. I don't believe he had it before then. I can't really speak to what came after. I personally, having watched Trump and Putin together on several occasions, having listened into their phone conversations, having myself met Putin on any number of occasions going back to October of 2001, I think that that Putin essentially thinks that Trump is an easy mark.
And before I get to the truth, again, I want to give you context. The left constantly said that the right were living in the past if they believed that Russia was a threat at all. Here's always been the perspective of Russia for mainstream conservatives. And you can correct me if you disagree with me, but this has always been my understanding, being around conservatives day in and day out. Russia could potentially be a threat. We don't trust Vladimir Putin any further than we can throw him, but they are not an active threat right now that requires foreign intervention. That has pretty much been consistent since I've been 16 years old. But I remember this in the debate between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. I just threw up in my mouth a little.
Romney, he sucks!
She became a Trump voter. Here is Obama talking to Romney about Russia.
A few months ago, when you were asked what's the biggest geopolitical threat facing America, you said Russia. Not Al-Qaeda, you said Russia. In the 1980s are now calling to ask for their foreign policy back.
What's with the 80s insults?
It is.
He said no way, I said wait. And they called, they said they want the hairdo back. Talk to the hand.
Because the face is pissed.
Because the face is pissed. It got all wee-weed up. Remember when he made up terms?
Yes.
No, I'll have what she's having.
Exactly.
Did I do that?
That's nice.
And I asked Nigel Farage, got any cheese?
Where's the beef?
3, 2, 1, not 1, 2, 3. What the hell's bothering me? Is what I said. Are you just doing Family Matters?
Just a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit.
No, you need to get your wham burger.
Yes.
Gosh, Bolton is one of the most irrelevant gas bags.
So here's the truth, okay? In understanding all of that, the truth is that Donald Trump held Putin in check in a way that no other modern world leaders have. Yeah. Now, I don't think that there's anything wrong with being friendly or having a working relationship with people in other governments. Here's the thing. It's not even close to China as far as being a threat. The left have friendly alliances with people who want to wipe us off the face of the map all the time. Think about it. Barack Obama made this exact same argument, except he made it for Iran. So it's nothing new. And there's a very big difference between an active threat that is trying to conquer your land, let's say Europe with Hitler, someone like a Churchill with Hitler dealing with him, versus someone who in a faraway land may be a threat to people around him, but you hope that you can maybe keep them in check through diplomatic measures. I do know when that became a bad thing. Precisely when Donald Trump was the most anti-war president ever. Code Pink, you don't see him. They disappeared. So let's go through the actual record. The truth is that Donald Trump held Putin in check. 2008, under Bush, Russia invaded Georgia. If you remember, John McCain said, "We're all Georgians today, my friend." And then 2014, under Obama, Russia invaded Crimea. Skip. 2022, under Biden, Russia invaded Ukraine. Notice there's one gap there where nothing happened. Now, does it mean that it was entirely because of Donald Trump? No, it does not. Was it a factor? Abso-frickin-lutely. I have no doubt, because crazy beats big every time. Also, Donald Trump, if you look at his specific policies, blocked Nord Stream 2, right? He revoked the INF nuclear treaty when he found out that Russia was cheating on the obligations that they had. And NATO even supported Donald Trump's decision. And for the first time ever, if you're talking about the threat that is Russia, Donald Trump got other countries to finally pay what they were obligated to pay into NATO. No one else did. Russia was on its heels. The idea that Russia views Donald Trump as the easy rollover, the record just doesn't show it. Consider that one done.
Yeah. And he basically...
Excuse me. Fact check!
Excuse me.
It worked out perfectly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, sir.
Yes.
But he pretty much
Can't interrupt the fact check.
Yeah, he DM'd Putin a post when he fricasseed Soleimani. He's like, hey, look at this.
Yeah.
Look how I handle people who don't do what I like.
Yes.
Like, nobody had, like, you think he was scared of Biden? Biden couldn't stand at a World War II ceremony without wandering off and having the other world leaders have to corral him in. He was an empty chair. Donald Trump was not just crazy. He's a businessman. And he also knows how to negotiate. He makes threats, and you don't know if he's going to follow through.
If you were to follow the left, they can't help. Just give them time. They will always be inconsistent and they will contradict themselves. They said that there was Russia collusion for the election to get Trump into office. So Russia deliberately got Donald Trump into office so that they wouldn't fight a war for land during those 4 years, only to start it up with the administration who apparently they were actively fighting against, according to the left, because they were afraid of Joe Biden.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that adds up.
This is the timeline of the left. You go from Barack Obama, Russia's not a threat, and hey, we could be buddies with Iran, to Russia's trying to get Donald Trump elected because they want to take over the world. Nothing happens, nothing happens, nothing happens. Russia's afraid of Joe Biden. Joe Biden gets elected, and Russia right away starts to pop shit off. Is that a logic trail you can follow? All right, here's the next one. Donald Trump was discussing on this stream inflation, of course, one of the biggest issues facing Americans today.
I think we have the worst inflation we've had in 100 years. They say it's 48 years. I don't believe it. I think we have the worst. They don't include a lot of the items that should be included.
Okay. So here's the claim that the left is making, and CNN in particular. They say that Trump framed this in a way that is baseless. He framed it kind of as an opinion, but it's wrong in two different ways. Hold on a second. If he says this is the number they give you, but in my opinion it's worse, how could that possibly be wrong? So let me go through the numbers here. Inflation was only at 41-year highs at 9.1% in June of 2022.
A lot of years difference.
And inflation is coming down rapidly, according to CNN. Right? So that's their fact check, just to give you. Their fact check is actually inflation is a 41-year high. Okay? And they're wrong about that.
Really bad.
Here's the truth. Donald Trump was actually being very conservative because peak inflation was much higher than has been listed publicly. New inflation measures, for example, if you're to compare how we measure inflation now compared to back when Carter was president, it excludes some things like mortgages, kind of a big one.
It's a biggie. Yeah.
Huge.
Mm-hmm. When you actually include those numbers month over month, inflation under Biden, it was as high as 16.4%. That's just in a month.
That's a month
over month.
Yes.
That would be the highest if you use the same measuring parameters. The highest inflation since Truman. For those of you who don't know, he's the guy who dropped the A-bomb.
Spent a lot of money on it.
Is that more than
the whole
40
war
years?
and everything
That's
else?
more than 40 years, right?
Quite a bit.
Okay.
He's the guy who came after the wheelchair guy.
Oh, okay.
Greg
Abbott?
He came from rolling to walking.
And here's another truth, by the way. Another truth for you. Inflation is still, right now, at its highest in well over a decade. So if you're just comparing Donald Trump and Biden, and if you were comparing Barack Obama, Donald Trump and Biden, it's not even close. And then if you compare Biden to all of American history, it's even worse. Prices have gone up at least 20% since Biden has taken office. At least 20%. Now, I will tell you this, opinion, before I get fact-checked, I don't believe that horse crap for a second.
Nope.
20% is far too low. If you look at your grocery bill, Biden taking office, and now you look at what you are paying for gas, you look at the prices of homes, let alone you're talking about the rates.
Yeah.
It's not even close. As a matter of fact, I've looked through these numbers, and the lowest individual sort of goods or services that I can see as far as inflation is apparel, and I believe that's still well into the teens. You have plenty that are in 30, 40, 50, 70% of essential items. 20 is lowballing it, but using the same metrics, we do have the highest inflation that we have seen in this country since Truman. You can consider that one fact-checked. Extra fact check. And the one thing, though, too, that kind of got lost in the shuffle, it's a little bit sad because this obviously interview is it's sucking the wind, it's sucking the air out of the room.
Yeah.
And, Hulk Hogan was at the RNC, was pretty popular. And they've actually enlisted some other wrestlers to discuss these political issues, these economic issues, including holograms of ones no longer with us, speaking of inflation.
With the election quickly approaching, the Biden-Harris administration is under fire and in the limelight for their handling of the economy. And what's this, Macho Man? How we doing?
Oh, yeah. You know what I got right there? It's not the economy. You know what that is? That's the
It's
economy.
a balloon.
No. That's inflation right there. Because that's what we had with the Biden-Harris administration. Yeah. Inflation. Yeah. You know what they call inflation? It's the hidden tax. Because it affects everything CPI. Core index. I don't want to interrupt the Macho Man, but I know it doesn't involve groceries or gas. Over 20%. Yeah, the worst since the Carter administration, because it's the silent tax for middle America, Kamala. And some people even say the silent
Kamala.
Some people even say the silent killer is inflation. In America on November 5th, yeah.
That's AIDS, Macho Man.
It gets, don't interrupt, Macho Man. It irritates me. Where comparatively speaking, you've got a man who can save you. Make that balloon small. Or you got someone who can make the biggest balloon you've ever seen and be your silent killer. And you know who that is? Yeah.
Please tell us.
That's Kamala. Say no. Say no to Kamala. We don't want no more lies, Firestein. Say it with me. No more Kamala.
No more Kamala.
I want to hear you say it with some enthusiasm.
No more Kamala.
There you have it, inflation. It's death.
I prefer Megan Thee Stallion. Okay.
They don't.
So let's go to the next claim here that they're making.
I like Reagan the Stallion.
Here's what Donald Trump said on the interview.
Right? What he's done with crime, with cashless bail, where you kill somebody. I mean, we have states there you kill somebody and they let you out right away. I mean, you don't have to even put up, and then they never find the people unless they kill again, and then they let them out again. Our country is becoming a very dangerous place.
Okay. Now, everything he just said is correct.
I did not know that.
Here's the CNN claim that both violent crime and property crime have actually dropped significantly in the years 2023 and the first quarter of 2024. Here's the truth. It doesn't matter. It's far above pre-COVID levels in major cities, even accounting for the new misreporting. So from 2019 to 2023, if we're looking at that number, murder up 18%, assaults with a firearm up 32%, auto theft up 105%, even with the funging of the numbers. And that's really important, by the way, to remember here, because they will try and change the numbers and tell you that it's not really happening. They will just try and change the game and say, well, she wasn't really a border czar. They will try and hide the numbers as it relates to Putin and the amount of invasions that have taken place under different presidents' watch. They simply try and change them so that they can never be fact-checked. While they fact-check factually correct statements, keep in mind when we are talking about this, Harris supported a bail fund that released violent criminals out into the public during the George Floyd riots who went on to commit violent crimes. To solve crime, Harris, remember, I don't know if you know this, she's vice president now. She's had quite a few proposals, including cashless bail, meaning no cash, you just get out, reducing sentencing, and increasing welfare spending. This has been her approach to crime. And yes, there are people who have been, I know, in New York and in San Francisco.
He said murder, and I was like, no, there's no way. Is he conflating something? And you were like, no, absolutely not. There was, I think, a case in San Jose or something like that where somebody was let out who was actually being, I guess, looked at for murder. And they let him back out. And I was like, there's no way. Like, I'm sorry.
There have been people who've committed
a giant bond murder is kind of a big one.
And many examples of violent assault with a deadly weapon. They're released. They commit it again. They're released again. This has happened. Look, believe your lying eyes and believe your lying ears. You know that this is going on. Anecdotal is not evidence in the face of the empirical. But when you have a graph doing this, the empirical as far as crime, and all of a sudden there's an anomaly that goes boom. And anecdotally, you're still experiencing the same thing in your reality. You go, oh, wait a second. They're no longer reporting crimes. And it's still worse. Pre-COVID levels Crime. Crime today. Not even close. Let's go on to the next one. Here's Donald Trump during the interview, which of course had to fact check wrongly, speaking about immigration.
There's never been a country in history that has had a catastrophe like this. We've had, I believe, and I think you believe this too, you hear 12 million, 13. I believe it's over 20 million people came into our country.
Okay, again, he said, you hear this figure. I believe that it's actually this. He's being very clear that he's trying to tell you they're not telling the truth with the numbers.
Right.
Here's the claim from the fact checkers, who we are fact checking, CNN. They said that his 20 million figure is false, a major exaggeration. Okay, here's the truth. It's not even close to an exaggeration. So let me give you the numbers that he cited, and let me explain to you where he comes to the final number in his opinion, which is not really an opinion at this point. Over 10 million illegals, right? They've entered since Biden and Harris have taken office. Okay, those are just the ones we know about, and those are just the encounters with the CBP. Okay? You have studies out there that put the number, they estimate around 1/3 of illegal crossings are not caught at all. 1/3. So you've got 10 million, and that may account for 1/3, right? Okay, let's play as conservative. Those numbers they now go to 14.7 million. 14.7 million illegal immigrants. You just add visa overstays on top of that, about 850,000 a year. That number is now at 18 million conservatively. Now, let's add the number. We don't actually have the number because they don't want you to know the number. So you add flying in asylum seekers. That number is absolutely close to 20 million. On the low end, 18 million. The 10 million number is just encounters at the border with CBP. So he's saying this is a number that you hear. I believe it's higher. I believe it's closer to 20 million. You'd actually have to be proactively lying to say that the 20 million number is not more accurate than the isolated 10 million number. It's not an exaggeration. He was correct. And of course, we don't really know because we have sanctuary cities. Because we can't know how many people are here illegally off the books if they're not actually caught. That's the problem with illegal immigration. Consider that one done. CNN double fact check. Hey, if you're still watching, this is the part where I increase interactions and tell you to comment below. What do you think? Right, because that works. But if you don't, you can just click one of these videos playing in a similar vein, or it may autoplay. Ooh, that's fun.